So if you've kept up with my uploads, you know that my last Breath of the Wild theory was about the science of the Ridgeland Fall. And while I went through a ton of information in the span of only 16 minutes, there are plenty of things I wanted to talk about that I couldn't get to. Stuff like the possibility of increased bone density to the point where Link could survive the drop, and the idea that M is not equal to meters are a few examples of topics I wanted to touch on. Plus, a minor error about his mass which affects a few of the smaller calculations in the video. So if you guys loved that recent episode and want to see a follow-up to it, then make sure to let me know in the comments. Besides that, we're gonna once again step away from the lore of this game and talk about something called Amnesia. At least, I think we're talking about that for today's video. Honestly, I've kind of forgotten. Oh right, I just remembered. We aren't talking about Amnesia today. We are doing the second part of that Mipha theory I never promised, but people keep asking for. Silly me. So, here we go. Mipha is dead. Link can't have romantic relationships with a dead fish, so Zelda wins. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. All joking aside, today's video is going to be about something I'm sure you know about if you've played your fair share of games. The good old Amnesia cliche that every game apparently needs to have in it because it makes the story mysterious and lol deep. While some games can pull this cliche off rather well, many times it just seems like an excuse for forced exposition given to the main character. And Nintendo's recent entry in the Zelda franchise is no different. The whole story is based off Link venturing through the ruined kingdom of Hyrule while trying to learn more about his past through the form of memories and other means. Whether Breath of the Wild does the Amnesia cliche well or not won't be the focus of this video. Instead, we will dive deeper into how this game depicts this and compare it to real-life scenarios. And who knows, maybe we'll find out a few mind-blowing revelations about the protagonist himself. To start, we need to understand what amnesia is. The official definition for amnesia is the loss of memory due usually to brain injury, shock, fatigue, repression, or illness. Of course, it's not as simple as that. Several kinds of amnesia exist that are caused by different reasons. For example, most people cannot remember the events that took place in the first 3 to 5 years of their life. This is referred to as infantile amnesia, and most likely occurs because the brain is still in its development stages. Although there are many theories on why this type of amnesia exists.
A game theory!
There are two main types of memory loss that we'll go over: retrograde amnesia and anterograde amnesia. While both are deficits in memory through some sort of brain damage, they function slightly differently. Retrograde amnesia affects all memories that are formed before the incident that caused said brain damage. It's caused from injuries to the memory storage areas of the brain. This type of amnesia can be permanent, temporary, or progressive. When looking at Breath of the Wild, it's pretty clear that Link suffers from this kind as he has no recollection of his past when waking up in the Shrine of Resurrection. Link's amnesia is brought up time and time again throughout the game as characters he once was familiar with help him throughout his quest, occasionally dropping information vital to his backstory. The very first time this occurs is when Link is told of what occurred 100 years ago by the former king of Hyrule atop the Temple of Time. Now, this brings up a very good question. If Link indeed suffers from this, then how does he know how to swing a sword or use a bow? If he truly suffered from retrograde amnesia, wouldn't he forget these things? And the answer is, surprisingly no. With this type of amnesia, two types of memory storage can be affected: semantic and episodic. The former is a structured record of facts, meanings, concepts, and knowledge about the external world that we have acquired, while the latter involves our memory of experiences and specific events in time. Generally, episodic is affected much more severely compared to semantic, which makes sense since Link wakes up with no past memories of any kind. However, it is also clear that a lack of semantic memory was a result of his amnesia, since Link didn't know exactly where he was at the start of the game. If his semantic memory lay intact, then he would have known that he was on the Great Plateau, but not how he got there. And while not knowing the names of the several weapons, he still knows how to properly use them, which makes sense since someone with retrograde amnesia would keep their skills previously learnt. And while there is no specific cure for amnesia, usually it recovers over a period of time. It could take weeks, months, or even years to fully recover, but there are forms of treatment that can help with the recovery of memories. For example, photographs, smells, and music may help, or even visiting a familiar location. We see that very thing happen time and time again in Breath of the Wild, where Link visits the locations of pictures stored in the album of the Sheikah Slate. While the images themselves don't trigger anything, actually being there makes Link remember his past life. Sometimes just a single cue or image can cause a person to fully recover from amnesia as well. One doctor noted that a patient of hers was able to remember years of sitting and staring at a wall after being in a coma for months, just because of the name of one of his friends that was conveniently brought up. While this is all well and good, this doesn't answer an important question. How would Link have even received this kind of amnesia? It should come to no surprise that a hard enough blow to the head could result in retrograde amnesia. But that wouldn't fit with the cutscenes, as if that was the case, Link wouldn't have been protecting the princess. Chances are he would have been confused as to what was going on and not remember his duties as her appointed knight. And that brings up the Shrine of Resurrection. Judging from a few comments made here and there, it is implied that the reason Link lost his past memories was due to the aftermath of recovering in the medical chamber. Zelda even says,
"Although the slumber of restoration will most certainly deprive him of his memories."
So there we go. That confirms it. Without a doubt, Link got retrograde amnesia from recovering in the shrine. Except for one thing. The Shrine of Resurrection had not yet been tested prior to Link's recovery. So despite what the characters say, it would not be 100% known if it was the cause for his loss of past memories. But now we are stuck with a bit of an issue. How did Link lose his memories? To answer that, let's take a look at the second last memory and try to find something that can help us. Did you catch that? After a brief moment between the two, Link went unconscious. This tends to happen with a blow to the chest or the head, but as seen here, he doesn't get hit by anything, and that brings us to another cause of it. Blood loss. It is said by characters that Link was fatally wounded by Calamity Ganon. While he was fleeing with the princess, it would be no surprise to think that Link was probably losing a bunch of blood because of how beat up he is. You can even see the guy struggling to defend Zelda right before unleashing her sealing power, so this would explain why he fainted in her arms. But why is this important? Well, I looked at a variety of different health problems that would lead to retrograde amnesia, and a few stuck out to me. Seizures, strokes, and cardiac arrest. The thing that links all of these together is the loss of blood flow, specifically to the brain. These problems can all lead to retrograde amnesia, and considering Link was most likely unconscious from the time he fainted all the way to being put in the shrine, it's safe to say that this is the reason he lost his memories. So is that it? Can I just wrap up this video and call it a day? Well, no, because that is one of two types of amnesia. I give you Anterograde amnesia, the inability to create new memories. What's interesting though is the following. This is in contrast to retrograde amnesia, where memories created prior to the event are lost while new memories can still be created. Both can occur in the same patient. You might be wondering, why is this important? And that's because I am suggesting that Link doesn't only suffer from retrograde amnesia, but also anterograde. Let me explain. First of all, we need to prove that it would be possible for Link to get anterograde amnesia. The parts of the brain where memories are stored don't affect the creation of new memories, so if those parts were damaged, Link would still be able to make new ones. Parts of the hippocampus are confirmed to play an important role in creating new memories. Therefore, any damage to that area can result in anterograde amnesia. And can I just say that hippocampus is probably the most hilarious bone I've ever heard? Well, second only to the funny bone, that is. But while blood loss could play a role in Link's loss of past memories, I believe that the cause for anterograde amnesia is different. According to what I read, it is possible for the hippocampus to get damaged from a lack of oxygen supply to the area. This can occur to other parts of the body, and is called hypoxia. Why is this important? Well, tell me. Are there any moments in the game where Link is exposed to small amounts of oxygen? It turns out, there is. The very first place you start the game in, the Shrine of Resurrection. It is true that I said the shrine wasn't responsible for Link's loss of past memories, but given the circumstances, it could very well be the reason that Link would develop anterograde amnesia. Remember that when put in the shrine, the door to the chamber is closed, so there must not be that much oxygen making its way into the enclosed area. And when you combine the limited amount of oxygen with a century of recovering in the shrine, the idea that Link's hippocampus would be damaged is fairly high. Not only that, but I believe that the beginning of the game itself revolves around Link's anterograde amnesia. When you get out of the shrine, it isn't long before Link meets the old man. After going through a series of shrines adding abilities to your Sheikah Slate, you eventually meet him atop the Temple of Time. By then he reveals himself to be the former king of Hyrule, and tells Link about everything. After receiving the paraglider, the hero can leave the plateau and begin his adventure. At first you may think that the king does this so you can train to get stronger. And he also states,
"I did not think it wise to overwhelm you while your memory was still fragile."
Which, yeah. If you woke up one day not knowing who you were or why you were put there, it would be a bit much to then have information dumped on you. But I believe that the king made you go to these shrines for a different reason. And to fully explain that, let's go back to anterograde amnesia. Chances are, if you watch game theory, you have heard of the maze test before. Basically, a person with anterograde amnesia was given a maze to complete. Each day they would do the exact same maze, but would not remember their previous completions of it. But despite this, each day they managed to finish the maze faster. So even though every day the maze looked new, he kept some sort sort of memories as to how to solve it. When the old man in the game instructs you to bring back the treasure of a shrine in exchange for his paraglider, he ends up sending you 3 more before revealing his identity and giving Link the item in question. I believe that Link was being mentally trained to complete these shrines whenever he saw them. Each time one would be found in the kingdom, he wouldn't remember what it was, but by instinct enter it. This way, Link could still fulfill his duty while being unable to create new memories. You might argue that the reason the king directed Link to these mini-dungeons was to attain the 4 runes needed for his quest. And that's true, but these runes were discovered by Pyrrha after the events of the Great Calamity. At that point, the king was already dead, so he wouldn't have known of their existence. So yes, I can say with full confidence that Link is suffering from not only retrograde amnesia, but anterograde amnesia. Until I realized that there was one glaring flaw with this theory. There are many times in the game where Link clearly does remember past events. For example, he clearly remembers the promise the old man gave about receiving the paraglider. Well, let's look at other ways people fix their amnesia problems. One of the popular treatments is using a tablet or other piece of technology to constantly write down notes so you don't forget anything important. This way, even people who can't form new memories are able to do day-to-day tasks without forgetting anything. But if that's the case, then how does Link remember everything? It's not like he has a personal device to record notes or anything. Yeah, I got nothing. So I guess that Link not only lost his past memories, but recovering in the shrine may have even took away his ability to create them. But as usual, that's just a theory. How'd you like that? Pretty cool, huh? Now, if you don't mind, could you just sit there for a moment? I'm just gonna hit you over the head with this hammer so you forget everything you just witnessed and therefore watch the video again, increasing my view count. Cool? Thanks. Oh hey there! Wanna watch my new video?